teams are calling the 49ers, inquiring about a trade for a wide receiver. And it's not Deebo Samuel. It's Brandon Aiyuk. Teams want to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, and they think he might be available, but according to reports, he's not at this time. What do you think of this news?
I'm curious if we can try to come up with the teams that we think might be interested. I think the Giants are clearly one. We've heard that rumor for a big portion of the offseason already. But no surprise. I think teams look at Brandon Aiyuk the way that we look at Brandon Aiyuk and say, this guy is completely underutilized. He's a very good route runner. He's a pure wide receiver. He can get open at all levels on the field. He's a great blocker. And he's inexpensive. Yeah, I would want to trade for Brandon Aiyuk also. My question is, what teams are interested and what's the compensation? It can't be anything less than a first rounder. That's what they spent on him. And he's proven to be worth that. So what are the offers that they're getting?
Yeah, I would at least listen to the offers. I wouldn't necessarily just hang up right away. Nothing against Brandon Aiyuk, but I don't think the Niners should re-sign him. I think they're doing too many extensions of players who are good, not great. And I think Aiyuk is very good. And maybe next year he'll prove that he's great. But you can't be sentimental and re-sign everyone. And frankly, wide receivers are easy to replace, and they're expensive. And I think that's the way I see it. If they were to trade Brandon Aiyuk and get a first-round pick, you could probably get someone just as good as him, who's younger.
Would you trade him for less than a first-round pick, though?
No.
Like, let's say teams like, I'll give you a second and a fourth.
No. He was a first-round pick. He's lived up to his draft status and then some. Why would you trade? No, that doesn't make sense at all. If that's the best deal you're going to get, then hold on to him. You could always trade him next year.
Yeah, I'm not trading him for less than a first.
No,
I don't trust the 49ers to... What are the 49ers going to do? They're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk for a first, then they're going to draft another receiver, and we expect that they're going to get that pick right?
Fair point. Kyle has been doing better at the wide receiver position, Danny Gray notwithstanding, but this is what the Vikings did. I mean, they didn't pay Stephon Diggs, or did they? They traded him, and then they drafted Justin Jefferson. Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. So it can work, but you got to get the pick right.
Yeah, I'm curious. I really am curious of the teams. The Bears come to mind just because they're wide receiver needy, but I don't know if they would trade they're not going to trade a first. Their first is way up there, obviously. So,
right.
But if they trade back and they recoup a second first rounder, then maybe that's something they would do. I don't know. I'm curious to see who it is, but I totally get it. I really understand why teams would call, and I'm not hanging up necessarily either, but it's got to be at least a first. And I don't know if that's what the offers are that are coming in, but it sounds like the 49ers are saying, no, we're not interested at all in trading Brandon Aiyuk, which kind of to your point, they sign everybody.
They do sign everybody.
At what point do you have to stop signing everybody? I don't know what that breaking point is.
Well, if they intend to have quarterbacks making $900,000 every year, then they can keep spending on non-quarterbacks. Maybe the Niners feel like, look, we'll entertain the idea of trading Brandon Aiyuk next year, but not now. There's no reason to trade him now. There's no urgency. He's under team control for 2 more years. They don't give contract extensions until there's 1 year left. So it's good to know who's interested, but from the Niners perspective, like, hit us up next year. We're a Super Bowl team. We're trying to win. Aiyuk's a big part of that, and we don't need to move on from him yet.
I mean, if I'm the 49ers, I'm trading Deebo and signing Aiyuk when it comes to that point, because Deebo's older. He's not a pure wide receiver. He's more expensive. I'm keeping Aiyuk. If I'm choosing between those two, I'm keeping Aiyuk personally.
I would agree with that. It's tough to trade Deebo now, but maybe in a year or two, it would be more palatable. It would be more possible. Yeah.
I would think when that money kicks in, so probably not next season, but the season after, which you're not going to get. You're probably not going to get a first rounder for Deebo then, which is fine. I mean, maybe you get a second rounder or a couple third rounders, but if you can get that money off the books, pour some of that into Aiyuk, and then save some and continue to be younger at the wide receiver position, I mean, that's the route I would take. So one of those guys is eventually going to have to go. But I would hope that it's Deebo in 2 years versus Aiyuk in 2 years, because in 2 years, I think Ayuk's going to be the better receiver.
Agree. And I just feel like it's easier to go cheap at wide receiver than it is at
Yeah.
offensive line.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to hit on a good receiver in the draft than you are some of those other positions. At least as of late, it seems like all these guys coming out are superstars if you have the right quarterback. But the
But no,
49ers don't
every year
necessarily have
that's
that
like
either.
this wide receiver class is amazing. Every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. You've got like 6 or 7 that are like, oh man, these are top-notch players almost every single season. So yeah, that does seem to be what happens almost every draft.
So this is something to monitor, but I would be really surprised if the Niners traded Brandon Aiyuk this offseason unless someone gave him an offer they couldn't refuse, which would be like a top 20 pick. And again, I don't. Why would you trade a top 20 pick for Brandon Aiyuk when you could just draft a wide receiver?
Maybe they don't trust themselves. Actually, I know a team that is actually calling about him too. I guarantee the Patriots have called. Patriots can't draft wide receiver at all.
To save their lives.
No, they can't. So, I mean, that's another thing is why don't teams like the Patriots and 49ers get together and the Patriots say, okay, well, we can't draft wide receiver. You can draft one of those for us. We'll draft, I don't know, whatever position you can't draft, offensive line, and we'll make that swap. I don't know.